Hi, Rick Clark, fifth generation from Williamsport, Indiana. I am for the soil because if you want healthy humans, you have to have healthy soil. It all starts with the soil.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of For the Soil, a Conversation. I'm Jeff Ishii, along with Dr. Eric Benfeld and Mary Sketch Bryant. Now, I'm taking the week off this week. We'll just call it technical difficulties due to a new computer installation in our studio. But anyway, hosting this week, Dr. Eric Benfeld and Mary Sketch Bryant. One quick reminder before we get to the podcast, and those are the 4 core principles of healthy soils. Number 1, keep soil covered. Number 2, minimize soil disturbance. Number 3, maximize living roots. And number 4, energize with diversity. You can learn more about these principles at the website forthesoil.org. That's the digit 4, thesoil.org. Now to this week's podcast.
We're very pleased to have Garland Mason and Liz McMullen with us from Organic Valley, which is one of the larger cooperatives that we have in the U.S. and really just wanted to have a conversation, help people understand the history of Organic Valley and also how Organic Valley is working with farmers and communities and businesses to work towards soil health and stronger food system. So welcome, Garland and Liz. If you'd like to tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Of course. I'll go first, Garland. This is Liz McMullen. I am a PR specialist at Organic Valley. I've been with the co-op for a little over 6.5 years. And I grew up on a dairy farm in Southwest Wisconsin. And always just wanted to do something that just felt bigger than myself. And so when I got the job at Organic Valley, I met a lot of wonderful farmers and realized that this was the place I was supposed to be. And ever since then, it's been my dream. It's been a dream, actually. And so we bought a house outside of where I actually grew up. And my husband and I live in Stoddard, Wisconsin with 2 dogs and 2 cats, and hopefully one day we'll have a nice little piece of land ourselves. But right now I'm just helping our farmers in whatever way I can, and usually it's on the other side of the microphone. So I'm usually the one telling people what to say, not actually talking. So
I'm Garland Mason. I also work at Organic Valley on the sustainability team. I'm the sustainability funding and communications specialist. So in my role, I help farmers with grants that support sustainability initiatives on their farms. And I also do our farmer-facing communications around sustainability topics. And I previously worked at Virginia Tech. I live in Giles County, Virginia, and work remotely for the co-op. So I've had the privilege of traveling to Wisconsin several times and meeting farms actually in states all across the country, meeting farmers in states all across the country that are members of our co-op. But I'm pretty familiar with Virginia agriculture, and we have several farmers here in Virginia, mostly in the Shenandoah Valley, who are members of our co-op. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to live and work in Virginia, and then also be able to join this national cooperative and learn more about the full U.S. agriculture system. Yeah.
So Liz and Garland, just for our audience, because I'm guessing some folks know what a cooperative is when it comes in the agricultural realm. Many may not. Can you just give us a little briefing on that?
absolutely. So Mary, repeat the question again. I want to make sure I answer it correctly. Sorry.
Yeah, what is the cooperative model,
Yeah.
especially in food systems?
Okay, so cooperative model is really interesting. So we have around 1,600 farmers in the cooperative, and they are Garland and my bosses, basically. So the cooperative model is a little bit different, where the farmers make all of the decisions, and then the employees come next, and then the CEO is last. And so the board that we have that makes the decisions is made up of farmers across the country. And they get together once a month and talk about the issues. And, at the end of, let's say, an example would be at the end of the year, they talk about pay price and how to stabilize the pay price for the next year. And they make a lot of just big decisions, actually. And that really affects the rest of the cooperative. The cooperative also really means, and this might just be my definition, but it really means working together and cooperating. So the farmers are always in contact with each other, asking questions on different DEC calls if they're on them, or if they're on different Facebook groups or just group chats in general, to say, hey, this is what's going on my farm. Has anybody else experienced this? And they can help each other have better practices and learn from each other. And it just really embodies what cooperation is, which is really cool.
And Liz and Garland, if you could also share a little bit more about the vision and mission statement of Organic Valley, I think people would appreciate that.
I can definitely do some of that too. So basically, I will step back from this a little bit and say we have been a cooperative the entire time. We started in 1988, where a handful of farmers were wondering how to buck the narrative that Earl Butz was saying, which was get big or get out. And our farmers in the southwest part of the state, which is we're headquartered in Lafarge, Wisconsin, were like, we're not going to do that. Let's figure out a way to know where our food is coming from and provide healthy food for people around us. And that's basically how the cooperative was born. We started as a vegetable cooperative and then kind of blossomed into what we are today. And we have over 1,600 family farms today, as well as in 29 states. That's where all of our farms are, in the 29 states. And we're in everywhere, nationwide, basically, everywhere from Whole Foods to your local co-ops, stores in your neck of the woods, to anywhere that is, Walmart to Target, any kind of place like that as well. So it's pretty cool to see where we have come from 1988 till right now.
And I think one thing that I would add to that, as somebody who joined, working at the co-op rather recently, is the coolest thing that I think exists about our co-op is that it's owned by the farmers. So our farmers are member owners. And so there isn't a private equity firm owning Organic Valley. The farmers that provide milk and other products to Organic Valley are who own the co-op. So all of the equity is with them.
And Liz and Garland, so then going from the head of that co-op model into your real commitment to sustainability. I mean, Garland, that's in your title, and you have a whole department, it sounds like, around that. Obviously, organic is in the title, but you have such a focus on regenerative practices. I think you have a goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. Just want to dive into some of what you're doing to support farmers in their work towards best management practices.
Yeah, so I can take this one. The co-op has had a sustainability team, either formally or informally, really since the beginning. I think probably it became more organized as a formal sustainability team within the last 12 or 15 years. But we have always helped our farmers develop innovative technologies that support sustainability on their farms. So a lot of our farmers have adopted solar, and so they either have grid tied or off grid solar installations on their farm to support their electric needs, to support their whole farm, because some of our farmers are plain sect Amish and Mennonite and are not connected to the grid. And then we also have had in the past a recycling ag plastics program and promoted composting and reduced tillage through a farm and land program where we had demonstration sites across Wisconsin that were owned and operated by the co-op. And then our most recent initiative has been the carbon insetting program. So the carbon insetting program launched, I guess now almost about 2 years ago, it launched following a pilot program. And that program is designed to allow us to pay farmers for the tons of carbon that are sequestered through a specific set of practices. And the tons of carbon sequestered are used to generate verified impact units that can be sold as carbon credits. And so it generates income for our farmers. So it can be a secondary source of income. They maybe would get their milk check, and then they'll also get a check for the tons of carbon that they've reduced or removed from the environment. And with carbon insetting, the carbon credits are shared throughout the system. And so the carbon credit stays with the farm. It follows the milk and goes to the cooperative. And then it also can be shared through to our retailers like a Whole Foods or another grocery chain who is selling our product. And they can also make that carbon claim because they're buying a low carbon milk from us. But the idea there is that they would pay to be able to share that claim, and then that payment would go back to support the practices on the farms.
And
Garland,
fo-
sorry, Eric, I just wanted Garland to kind of elaborate on with what kind of practices are considered like
Sure.
the carbon insetting practices.
Yeah, and so we chose a specific set of practices to start with based on farmer interest and low barriers to entry just to get the program launched. And so we chose a specific set of practices that were also relatively easily scientifically verifiable because we use a third-party verifier. And so we have to support all of our claims with academic journals, peer-reviewed journal articles. And so we have to have the science that support any of our claims. So some of the examples of our practices right now are solar, off-grid, and grid-tied. And then there's some cropland practices like reduced tillage and compost application. We also have manure composting and solid liquid separation. And then something that we've been having a lot of farmer excitement around is a product called Agolin that reduces enteric fermentation in the cow's rumen. So basically, it makes the cow burp less and release less carbon by kind of making their digestive system more efficient and able to absorb, kind of the more fiber in their diet, and so basically they produce less gas. And so that's been an easy sell for farmers. Yeah.
Once again, we're talking with Garland Mason and Liz McMullen of Organic Valley Cooperative, and there's so much to talk about. We do want to remind listeners that we will have a part two. Um, One thing I'd like to ask, I think both Liz and Garland, you can speak to this a little bit about uh, like the farmers or the farms that make up Organic Valley, because I've worked with Extension 26 years, and I always say that no one farm that you step on or visit is the same. I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about Organic Valley and the makeup of the cooperative as the
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. I'll take this, Garland, and then you can add to it if you'd like. But so like I've said a couple times, is we're made up of a little over 1,600 family farms across the United States. That's from each coast, so Oregon to Maine. And each farm is a lot different than the other just because of where they're located. We have a average herd size of 70 cows, actually. So it is 3.5 times smaller than most of an average dairy herd size within like a different kind of dairy. But we believe in having smaller herd sizes so that the cows can have extra TLC and care. We also are one of the largest farmer-owned cooperatives in the United States. And we're all organic. So everything we do is organic. So Garland, if you want to add anything, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, I think I've worked with farmers my entire career. I went to undergrad for agriculture, specifically dairy science. And so I've visited hundreds, if not thousands, of farms in the last 20 years. And no farm is the same. And it's really been amazing to meet the Organic Valley producers after a career of touring all kinds of different farms. I think every Organic Valley farm is different, and you can kind of feel the culture and the ethos of the cooperative as a common tie, pretty much across any of our farms that you visit. And so I think something that I've found on Organic Valley farms is kind of that commitment to cooperation, to learning, to continuous improvement, to innovation for sustainability, and then also to kind of preserving the agricultural communities in their area and the culture of the area. And most of the farms that I work with who are interested in grant funding for sustainability projects are doing it to support the next generation to come up on their farms. And so they're doing these projects not really for themselves, but so that the farms become or are continue to be viable into the future so that, subsequent generations can take on leadership. So I think that's really exciting. Organic Valley is really committed to preserving small family farms. And so that's a common thread that I see across all the farms that I visit.
Yeah, thank you, Garland and Liz, and we'll have a follow-up episode. For those that are interested in learning more about Organic Valley, you can visit their website at organicvalley.coop. And I think one thing that Organic Valley does is really highlighting the farmers and the farmer story. So you can learn more at their website, organicvalley.coop. And thank you again, Garland and Liz.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
For the Soil, a conversation is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, visit the website forthesoil.org. If you have a specific question about soil health, contact your local extension office, your local USDA service center, or a Soil and Water Conservation District office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of the Flip Charts, all rights reserved. For the Soil, a conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii.